Ryan was an ordinary human engineer who worked on old machines and broken systems. He never wanted to be a hero, and he never planned to meet anyone from another world. But fate often waits in dark corners, and his fate was about to change. The space station where he lived was falling apart. Power cuts came every few hours. The food supply was getting low, and people whispered about abandoning the station. Ryan was one of the few who still tried to repair the broken parts. That night, while the corridors were silent and the lights flickered, he followed a strange sound echoing from the lower tunnels. The sound was not like the usual hum of machines. It was soft, like a heartbeat, steady and alive. Ryan felt his chest tighten as curiosity pulled him forward. He carried only a small lamp and a repair tool, but his steps grew slower the deeper he went. The air was cooler, heavy with mystery. Dust floated in the beam of his lamp like tiny ghosts. At the end of the tunnel, he discovered a hidden door, half covered by metal sheets and old pipes.
He had worked on this station for years, yet he had never seen this door before.
His hands trembled as he pushed it open. The hinges groaned and a breath of cool air brushed against his face. Inside was a chamber unlike anything he had seen before. The walls glowed faintly with blue markings swirling like rivers of light. In the center stood a cluster of tall, round objects that looked like giant coconuts, but they pulsed softly as if they were alive. Ryan stepped closer, his heart beating fast. Then he froze. Someone was already there. She was not human. A girl stood in front of the glowing coconuts, her skin pale with a faint silver shine. Her hair floated softly around her like strands of starlight. Her eyes were wide, glowing faint blue, and her face turned pink the instant she saw him. She clutched one of the coconuts close to her chest as if she had been caught doing something secret. Ryan's mouth went dry. His mind screamed to run, but his legs would not move. He had seen aliens in stories and pictures, but never with his own eyes, and never this close. The alien girl's lips parted, but no sound came. She stared at him, shocked and trembling. Finally, she whispered in a voice soft and melodic, "Human." Ryan blinked, his lamp shaking in his hand. You can speak my language?" She nodded quickly, her cheeks burning brighter. Not well, but I understand." The silence that followed was heavy. Ryan wanted to ask 1,000 questions, but his eyes kept drifting to the strange coconuts glowing beside her. One of them seemed brighter than the rest, throbbing gently like a living heart. He raised a hand slowly, pointing. What are those?" Her face flushed even more, and she shook her head nervously. "Sacred? They are sacred pods. You must not," but Ryan had already taken a step forward. Something about the glow pulled him closer like a moth to fire. Before he could stop himself, his hand brushed against the nearest pod. The effect was instant. The pod shivered and swelled, its size growing larger right before his eyes. Light burst from its shell, filling the room with a blinding flash. The alien girl gasped loudly, clutching her face with both hands. Her entire body trembled, and her blush deepened until her silver skin looked almost crimson. Ryan stumbled back, shocked. What did I do?" She pressed her palms against her cheeks, looking away from him in embarrassment. Her breathing was uneven, and her glowing eyes avoided his. No one has ever done that before." Ryan stared at his own hand, confused and frightened. The pod he touched had doubled in size, shining more brightly than all the others. He looked back at the girl who was still blushing furiously, as if his presence alone was too much for her. The silence stretched between them, broken only by the steady hum of the glowing pods. Ryan finally whispered, "I didn't mean to. I didn't know." She shook her head quickly, hugging the pod she carried. "You should not be here. If others know, if they find out, it will be dangerous for both of us." Her words made Ryan's chest tighten.
"Dangerous? Why?"
What secret had he touched by accident? The chamber, the glowing pods, the way the alien girl could barely meet his eyes without blushing. It all felt like a door opening to something far bigger than he could understand. For the first time, Ryan realized he had stepped into a mystery that was no longer about broken machines or a dying station. This was about something living, something powerful, and something deeply connected to the alien girl who now stood before him, trembling and unable to stop blushing. And deep inside, Ryan knew one thing: whatever had started here tonight, it was only the beginning. Ryan stood frozen in the glowing chamber, his hand still tingling from the strange pod he had touched. The alien girl clutched the enlarged pod against her chest. her silver skin now bright red with blush. She turned away as if even looking at him would burn her with shame. Ryan swallowed hard. I didn't mean to, I swear. I just touched it. Her glowing blue eyes lifted to his face, wide and trembling. She spoke in broken but clear words, her voice soft like music. Human touch. It changed the pod. That should not happen, only my kind can do this. Ryan stepped back, raising his hands. So it reacted to me? But why? The girl pressed the pod tightly, her cheeks still flaming. I do not know, no male. No one ever made this happen before. Her voice cracked with nervousness, and she turned her head to hide her burning face. Ryan felt a wave of guilt. He had walked into this chamber without permission, touched something sacred, and now she looked like she was in trouble because of him. He glanced at the glowing pods around them. Each one pulsed gently, but the one he touched shone brighter than all the rest, as if declaring his crime. He tried to change the subject. What's your name? The alien girl hesitated before whispering, Lyra. Lyra, Ryan repeated softly, testing the sound. It was short and beautiful, fitting the strange, shy girl who stood before him. She blushed harder when he said it, as if the way he spoke her name carried some hidden weight. Lyra stepped closer to the cluster of pods, her long fingers stroking one gently. These are not fruit. They are sacred cocoons. Life energy. My people guard them for generations. She looked at him with serious eyes. If they know a human touched them, they will be angry. They may destroy you. And me. Ryan's chest tightened. Destroy you? But you didn't do anything wrong. Lyra shook her head quickly, her hair shimmering like silver threads. To them I failed. I let you near the pods. I let you change them. She bit her lip, her voice trembling. They will say I am unworthy. Her fear cut into Ryan. He had only wanted to explore, but now this girl's future was at risk. He took a careful step closer, lowering his voice. I won't tell anyone. This will stay between us. I promise. Lyra's eyes widened and her blush deepened even more. She pressed her hand against her cheek, whispering, You promise? Ryan nodded firmly. Yes. Whatever happened here, it's our secret. For a long moment, Lyra just stared at him, her breath quick and shallow. She looked like she wanted to believe him, but her whole body was still tense. Slowly, she nodded. Then I will trust you, human. Ryan almost smiled, but then noticed the way the pods were reacting again. Each time he moved closer, the glow grew stronger, and Lyra's face turned redder. It was as if his very presence triggered both the pods and her emotions. He frowned. Lyra, why do they react to me? I don't understand. She looked away, whispering so softly he barely heard. Because you are different. Your energy. It matches them. It connects to me. Her voice trembled as she said the last words, and she hugged the pod tighter, as if it were her shield. Ryan's heart pounded. Connects to her? What did that mean? He wanted to ask, but before he could, a sudden echo filled the chamber. The sound of heavy footsteps in the tunnels above. Lyra's head snapped up, fear flooding her eyes. The guards. They are coming. Ryan stiffened. Guards? Why? They felt the change in the pods. They will search. Her voice cracked, panic rising. If they see you here, they will kill you. Ryan's pulse raced. He looked around desperately, searching for a way out. The glowing pods lit the chamber too brightly to hide. He turned back to Lyra. Then what do we do? Lyra hesitated, her hands shaking. Then she stepped closer, her face burning with red as she whispered, Stay close to me. Do not move. Do not speak. Before Ryan could ask why, she grabbed his hand. The moment her fingers touched his skin, the chamber exploded with brighter light. Every pod glowed in unison, pulsing like giant hearts. Lyra gasped, her face crimson, her eyes wide with shock. She pulled back quickly, pressing both hands over her mouth. Ryan stared, stunned. Lyra, what was that? She shook her head violently, her whole body trembling. No, impossible. Your touch. It awakened them. They all respond to you. Her voice was full of disbelief, and she sank to her knees, hiding her face. This has never happened. You are dangerous. Ryan crouched down in front of her, gently lifting her chin so she would look at him. I don't want to hurt you, Lyra. I just want to understand. Her glowing blue eyes met his, full of confusion, fear, and something else. Something soft like a secret she could not admit. She whispered, You are not like others. You make me feel strange. Her cheeks burned hotter and she looked away quickly. Ryan's chest tightened. Not from fear, but from a strange warmth. For the first time, he felt that this meeting was not just an accident. It was fate. But before he could say more, the sound of footsteps grew louder. Voices shouted in a language he couldn't understand. Lyra's eyes widened with terror. "They are here." Ryan clenched his fists. "Then we run." Lyra hesitated, her body still trembling. Then she nodded, holding the glowing pod close to her chest. Together, they turned toward the shadows of the tunnel, the echoes of guards closing in behind them, and the dangerous secret burning between them, one that could change both their lives forever. The sound of boots echoed down the tunnels. Ryan's pulse raced as he followed Lyra through a narrow passage hidden behind the glowing chamber. She held the pod tight against her chest, her silver skin glowing faintly in the dark. Every few steps she looked back at him, her cheeks still red, her breath quick. The passage was long, twisting like the belly of a serpent. Faint light spilled from cracks in the stone walls, and the sound of guards grew more distant as they moved deeper. Finally, the tunnel opened into a smaller chamber, a bunker carved from rock. It was dim, with only a few glowing lines etched into the walls. Lyra stopped, resting the pod gently on the floor. She pressed her hands against her face, trying to calm her burning blush. Ryan leaned against the wall, breathing heavily. "We're safe. For now." Lyra nodded slowly, but her eyes stayed on him. Her glowing gaze seemed full of questions, confusion, and something softer she could not hide. For a long time, neither spoke. The silence wrapped around them like a heavy blanket. Ryan finally broke it. "You saved me back there. If not for you, those guards would have found me." Lyra shook her head quickly. "No, you saved me first," Ryan frowned. "What do you mean?" She touched the pod lightly, her voice soft. "When you placed your hand on the cocoon, it grew stronger. It should not be possible, but your energy protected it, protected me." Her blush deepened again. "No one ever did that for me." Ryan rubbed the back of his neck, awkward. "I didn't even know what I was doing. I thought it was just some kind of fruit." Lyra let out a small laugh, the sound soft and shy. "Fruit? No. They are life seeds. They are part of me." She paused, lowering her head. "That is why I blush. When you touch them, it feels connected." Her words made Ryan's chest tighten. He looked at her closely. She was trembling slightly, her silver skin glowing faintly pink. He wanted to ask more, but he didn't want to embarrass her further. So instead he sat down on the cold stone floor and sighed. "Then maybe fate brought me here for a reason." Lyra tilted her head, her hair falling softly across her glowing cheeks. "Fate? Yeah," Ryan said with a weak smile. "If my ship hadn't broken, if I hadn't followed that sound, I wouldn't be here. And I wouldn't have met you." Lyra's eyes widened and she turned her face quickly, hiding her blush. She whispered, "Humans speak such strange words." Ryan chuckled softly. "Maybe, but I mean it." Silence stretched again, but this time it felt different, warmer. Ryan studied her carefully. She wasn't just some alien stranger. There was a gentle kindness in her, hidden beneath her shyness. He saw how she hugged the pod, protecting it as if it were part of her soul. After a while, Lyra sat down across from him, her knees folded, her face still pink. She hesitated before asking, "Why did you come down here, human?" Ryan leaned back against the wall. "The station is dying. Power's failing, food is running out. I was trying to fix something, then I heard the heartbeat sound. I followed it and it led me to you." Lyra lowered her eyes, whispering, "Then it was not mistake. The pods called you." Ryan raised his eyebrows. "Called me?" She nodded. "The life seeds. They choose who to connect with. But never before, never a human." Her voice trembled. "That is why I fear. If my people learn of this, they will not understand. They will call you danger." Ryan's jaw tightened. "Then we keep it secret. I don't want you to get in trouble because of me." Lyra looked at him, her glowing eyes wide and searching. "You would hide this? For me?" Ryan nodded firmly. "Of course. I couldn't live with myself if something happened to you." Her lips parted slightly and her blush returned, brighter than before. She whispered, almost too quietly to hear, "No one ever said that to me." Ryan's chest warmed. He wanted to reach out to comfort her, but he stopped himself. Instead, he smiled gently. "Then maybe it's about time someone did." The bunker was silent again, but the air between them was charged. Ryan could feel it, the strange bond forming, fragile but real. Lyra hugged the pod closer, her eyes darting toward him again and again, though every time he caught her gaze she turned away with a burning face. Suddenly, the sound of distant voices echoed faintly through the tunnel. Lyra stiffened, her hand tightening on the pod. Ryan's instincts kicked in. "They're still searching," he whispered. Lyra nodded, fear flashing in her eyes. "They will not stop until they find what disturbed the seeds. We must stay hidden." Ryan clenched his fists. "Then we'll stay together, no matter what." For the first time, Lyra didn't look away. She met his eyes directly, her blush deep but steady. "Together," she repeated softly. The word seemed new on her tongue, fragile and full of meaning. Ryan gave a small nod. "Yeah, together." In that dim bunker, with danger closing in and secrets hanging between them, a bond was forming that neither fully understood. Ryan didn't know where this path would lead, but he knew one thing. He wasn't leaving her side. And Lyra, despite her endless blushing, no longer wanted him to. The bunker was quiet, but Ryan could not relax. He sat against the stone wall, his lamp dim, while Lyra hugged the glowing pod close to her chest. Her silver skin shone faintly in the darkness, and her cheeks were still pink whenever her eyes drifted toward him. But her blush was no longer the biggest problem. They were being hunted. Ryan leaned forward, whispering, "They're still searching, aren't they?" Lyra nodded slowly, her glowing eyes full of worry. "Yes, the guards will not stop." They felt the seeds change. "They know something unusual happened." Ryan frowned, his jaw tight. "If they find me here." Lyra lowered her head, finishing his thought. "They will kill you." The words hung in the air, heavy and sharp. Ryan clenched his fists. He wasn't afraid of death, he had faced danger before. But he couldn't stand the thought of Lyra being punished just for helping him. Suddenly, the bunker trembled. A deep rumble rolled through the walls. Dust fell from the ceiling, and Ryan jumped to his feet. "What was that?" Lyra's face paled, her eyes wide with fear. "They are opening the lower gates. The soldiers are coming closer." Ryan's instincts kicked in. "Then we can't stay here." Lyra shook her head quickly, panic in her voice. "No, if we leave now they will see us. We must wait." She pressed the pod against her chest as if it were her shield. Ryan looked around the bunker. There was no exit except the tunnel they came through. No secret doors, no hidden paths. If the guards entered, they were trapped. His mind raced for a plan. The sound of footsteps echoed faintly down the tunnel. Torches glowed in the distance. Ryan could see shadows moving closer. He turned to Lyra, whispering urgently, "We can't just sit here. They'll find us." Lyra's hands trembled as she placed the pod on the floor. She took a deep breath, then looked at him with determined eyes. "There is one way, but it is dangerous." Ryan crouched beside her. "Tell me." Her cheeks burned red and she avoided his gaze. "The pods respond to your touch. If you place your hand on them, their energy will grow. It may blind the guards, maybe push them back, but..." Her voice cracked and her blush deepened. "But it also connects you to me, stronger, too strong." Ryan didn't fully understand, but there was no time to hesitate. He placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "Lyra, if it keeps us alive, then I'll do it." Her glowing eyes widened at his touch. She looked away, whispering, "You are reckless." Ryan smirked faintly. "Maybe, but I'm not leaving you behind." The shadows grew larger as the guards approached. Lyra's heart pounded in her chest and her face turned crimson. She moved closer to the pods, kneeling before them. Ryan followed, his palm hovering above the nearest glowing shell. Lyra closed her eyes, whispering, "Do it now." Ryan pressed his hand against the pod. The chamber exploded with light. The walls pulsed with blue energy, and the bunker shook violently. Every pod glowed brighter than the stars, their light burning through the darkness like fire. The guards shouted, their voices echoing in panic. Ryan felt the pod vibrate under his hand, and a strange heat surged through his arm, spreading into his chest. His breath caught as his heart raced faster than ever before. Lyra gasped loudly, her body trembling. She grabbed her face, hiding her fierce blush. The connection between them grew so strong that she could barely breathe. She whispered, "Too much." "It is too much." Ryan grit his teeth, trying to control the energy flooding him. "Hold on, Lyra, just a little longer." Outside the bunker, the guards stumbled back, blinded by the intense glow. Some shouted in fear, calling Ryan a demon. Others tried to push forward, but the energy barrier forced them back. Sparks cracked through the tunnel like lightning, making the soldiers scatter. Ryan finally pulled his hand away, collapsing against the wall. The pods dimmed slowly, their light fading to a soft glow. The air smelled of ozone, sharp and heavy. Lyra dropped to her knees, her face crimson, her chest rising and falling rapidly. She hugged herself, whispering in a trembling voice, I cannot believe what you did. Ryan coughed, his body still shaking from the strange energy. Well, did it work? Lyra looked at him with wide, glowing eyes. Yes, the guards. They fear you now. They think you are cursed. Ryan gave a weak smile. Good. Maybe that'll keep them away. But Lyra's blush deepened again and she shook her head. No, it will only make them more determined. They will not stop until they capture you. Or, she hesitated, her voice soft. Or until they take me away from you. Ryan's chest tightened. He stepped closer, placing a steady hand on her arm. I won't let that happen. Not to you. Lyra's breath caught. She turned her face quickly, hiding her glowing cheeks. But her heart raced faster than ever. She whispered so quietly he barely heard. Why do you care so much? Ryan's eyes softened. Because you're the only one who treated me like more than a broken part of this station. And because I want to protect you. Lyra's eyes widened. Her blush burned hot, but this time she didn't pull away. Instead, she whispered back, then maybe, I will protect you too. The bunker fell quiet again, but outside, the sound of soldiers regrouping echoed faintly. The threat was not over. The trouble from outside was growing, and Ryan knew this was only the beginning of their fight. But as he looked at Lyra, still blushing but standing strong beside him, he felt something unshakable rise inside his chest. Hope. The glow of the pod slowly faded, but Ryan and Lyra could still hear the soldiers outside. Their voices echoed through the tunnels, angry and sharp. Torches burned brighter as the guards regrouped. Ryan pushed himself up, his body still aching from the strange energy. He looked at Lyra, who hugged the pod close, her cheeks still flushed. We can't stay here, he whispered. They'll come back stronger. Lyra's glowing eyes flickered with worry. Where will we go? The tunnels belong to them. Ryan scanned the bunker. There was only one exit, the tunnel where the guards had gathered. Then we'll have to run, he said firmly. Lyra gasped, shaking her head. Run, they are trained soldiers. They will not stop until they catch us. Ryan placed a hand gently on her shoulder, steady but firm. Then we don't let them catch us. Trust me, Lyra. Her face turned crimson again at his touch. She hesitated, then gave a small nod. I will follow. The sound of boots grew louder. Shadows flickered on the walls. Ryan grabbed her hand. Now! They sprinted into the tunnel. The torches ahead swung wildly as the guards spotted them. There, the human! Voices shouted. Arrows of light shot through the air, sizzling against the stone walls. Ryan pulled Lyra close, ducking as sparks rained down. The air filled with shouts and the pounding of boots. The tunnel split into two paths. Ryan stopped, panting. Which way? Lyra pointed left, her eyes glowing with urgency. That way toward the old vents. They darted left. The passage narrowed, the walls closing in. The sound of soldiers chasing them grew louder, closer. Ryan's heart pounded in his chest, but he didn't let go of Lyra's hand. Keep running, he shouted. Lyra struggled to keep up, the pod slowing her down. Her cheeks were flushed with both effort and embarrassment. I cannot run fast with this! Ryan glanced back at her, determination flashing in his eyes. Without hesitation, he took the glowing pod from her arms. I'll carry it. Lyra gasped, her face burning red. No, you cannot. It is sacred. But before she could finish, the pod pulsed brightly in Ryan's hands. The glow spread up his arms, surrounding him in a soft blue light. The tunnel lit up with strange energy. The guards behind them shouted in fear. He carries the sacred seed. Stop him! Ryan grit his teeth, ignoring their cries. Don't worry, Lyra, I've got it. Lyra stared at him, her heart racing, her face redder than ever. No one had ever dared to touch a pod like that, let alone carry it. Yet Ryan held it with steady arms, his energy flowing into it like it was part of him. They reached the end of the tunnel, only to find a wall of stone blocking their path. Ryan cursed under his breath. Dead end. The sound of boots thundered behind them. Torches glowed closer. Lyra's breath caught, fear flashing in her glowing eyes. We are trapped. Ryan turned, pressing the pod into her hands. Stay behind me. Lyra's lips parted, her blush deepening. You would fight them, alone? Ryan gave a faint smile. I'm not alone. I have you. Before Lyra could respond, the guards rushed into the tunnel. Dozens of them, their weapons glowing. They shouted in their language, pointing at Ryan and Lyra like hunters cornering prey. Ryan's pulse quickened. He looked at the pod in her hands, then back at the soldiers. He knew what he had to do. He reached out, placing both hands on the pod with hers. The chamber shook as every line of energy exploded into light. The soldiers cried out, shielding their eyes. A shockwave blasted through the tunnel, throwing several guards to the ground. The air burned with power, crackling like thunder. Ryan staggered, but Lyra steadied him, her face crimson. You fool. You will destroy yourself. Ryan smiled weakly. Better me than you. The soldiers scrambled, shouting in panic. Some turned and ran. Others tried to push forward, but the glowing barrier of energy blocked them. Ryan grabbed Lyra's hand again. Come on. There has to be another way out. Lyra nodded, pointing toward a narrow crack in the stone wall. There, the vent! Together they squeezed through the gap. The stone scraped against Ryan's arms, but he pushed forward, pulling Lyra behind him. They emerged into a narrow shaft filled with stale air. Behind them, the guards pounded on the stone, their voices echoing in rage, but they couldn't follow through the vent. Ryan collapsed against the wall, panting heavily. Lyra fell beside him, hugging the pod tightly. Her cheeks glowed red as she whispered, You carried it. You touched it. And still you live. Ryan chuckled breathlessly. Guess I'm tougher than I look. Lyra turned her face away, her blush deepening. No, it is not that. It means you were chosen. Ryan frowned. Chosen? She hugged the pod tighter, whispering, The seeds never bond with outsiders, but they bond with you. That is why they chase us. Her voice trembled, her blush refusing to fade. And that is why I cannot stop feeling this way. Ryan stared at her, his heart pounding for reasons beyond the chase. Lyra, he began, but the sound of distant drums echoed through the vents, cutting him off. Lyra's eyes widened in fear. They are calling reinforcements. The chase is not over. Ryan clenched his fists, determination burning in his chest. Then we'll keep running, together. Lyra met his eyes, her blush still burning, but this time she didn't look away. She whispered softly, Together. And in that moment, with danger closing in from every side, Ryan and Lyra's bond grew stronger than ever. The vents carried them deeper into the underground maze. The air was heavy, filled with dust and echoes. Ryan crawled first, holding the dim lamp, while Lyra followed close behind, hugging the pod tightly against her chest. Every so often she whispered his name softly, as if to reassure herself he was still there. Behind them, the pounding of drums shook the stone walls. The soldiers were still hunting. Their voices echoed through the tunnels, shouting orders. Ryan's heart pounded faster with every beat of the drums. They were getting closer. At last, the vent opened into a wide chamber. Ryan pulled himself out first, then helped Lyra climb through. The sight before them made him stop in awe. The chamber was massive, its walls glowing with swirling patterns of light. In the center stood a single giant pod, larger than all the others combined. It pulsed like a living heart, filling the air with a deep, steady hum. The ground shook with its energy. Lyra gasped, her eyes wide with wonder. The mother seed, she whispered, falling to her knees. I have never seen it. Only the elders are allowed here. Ryan stared at the glowing mass. This is the source, isn't it? Lyra nodded slowly, her silver cheeks flushed pink. Yes, it gives life to all other pods. It is sacred beyond words. She looked at him nervously, her blush deepening. No human should be here. If they find us, Ryan cut her off, scanning the chamber. They will find us. We don't have long. The sound of boots thundered closer. Torches flickered in the tunnels behind them. Soldiers were coming fast. Lyra hugged the smaller pod tightly, her voice trembling. Ryan, they will kill you. Please run while you can. Ryan turned to her, his jaw set. No, I'm not leaving you, not now. Not ever. Her glowing blue eyes widened, her face turning crimson. She whispered, almost broken, Why? Why do you risk everything for me? Ryan stepped closer, his voice steady but full of emotion. Because I care about you, Lyra. More than I should, maybe. But I do. And if this is the end, then I'll stand with you. Her breath caught, her heart racing. She had no words, only the fierce blush that spread across her silver skin, betraying feelings she didn't yet know how to speak. The soldiers stormed into the chamber, their weapons glowing. their voices loud. They pointed at Ryan and Lyra, shouting. The leader stepped forward, his armor shining, his eyes burning with hatred. The human defiles the mother seed, he roared. Seize them both. Ryan moved instinctively, standing between the soldiers and Lyra. He clenched his fists, ready to fight even if it meant dying. But Lyra grabbed his arm, her voice desperate. No, you cannot fight them all. Ryan's eyes darted to the giant pod. Then maybe it's time to do what I was meant to. Before Lyra could stop him, Ryan placed both hands on the mother seed. The chamber exploded with light. A wave of energy surged outward, knocking soldiers off their feet. The ground shook violently as cracks of lightning spread across the walls. The pod pulsed faster, brighter, its hum turning into a roar. Ryan grit his teeth, pain shooting through his arms and chest. His whole body trembled as the pod poured its power into him. He felt like his veins were on fire, but he refused to let go. Lyra cried out, rushing to him. Ryan, stop, you will destroy yourself. Ryan gasped, his voice shaking. If it saves you, it's worth it. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. She pressed her hands over his, adding her touch to the glowing surface. The instant her skin met his, the energy stabilized. The wild surges calmed into a steady flow, wrapping them both in a glowing shield of blue light. The soldiers tried to advance, but the shield pushed them back, forcing them to the ground. Their weapons shattered, their voices filled with fear. The leader shouted desperately, The human is cursed. Kill him before he consumes us all. But none of them could break through. The mother seed's light was too strong. Inside the shield, Ryan's vision blurred. He could barely stand. Lyra clung to him, her face crimson with both fear and emotion. Please hold on. Do not leave me. Ryan managed a weak smile. I'm not going anywhere. Together, their hands pressed against the pod. The energy swirled around them, pulsing brighter and brighter, until the entire chamber was bathed in blinding light. The soldiers screamed, covering their eyes, then silence. The glow slowly dimmed. The soldiers lay scattered on the ground, too weak to rise. The leader dropped his weapon, staring at Ryan and Lyra in fear. He whispered, The mother seed has chosen the human. Ryan collapsed to his knees, breathing heavily. Lyra caught him, her arms wrapping around him tightly. Her face was still burning red, but her eyes were shining with awe and relief. You did it, she whispered. No, we did it. Ryan managed a faint laugh, his voice raspy. Guess that makes us a team. Lyra blushed even harder, her silver skin glowing. She leaned closer, her voice trembling. Not just a team, something more. Ryan looked at her, his heart pounding. He didn't need her to explain, he could feel it too. The bond between them was undeniable now, sealed by the mother seed itself. The chamber hummed softly, calm once more. The threat was gone, but Ryan and Lyra knew the fight was not over. Outside, the world would never accept what had just happened. But inside, in that moment, they had each other, and that was enough. The giant chamber was quiet now. The glowing mother seed pulsed softly, its light no longer wild but calm, steady, alive. The soldiers who had rushed in were scattered on the floor, too weak to rise. The air smelled of smoke and energy, heavy with the weight of what had just happened. Ryan knelt on the ground, his chest heaving, sweat dripping from his forehead. His body still ached from the storm of power that had surged through him. His arms trembled, but he was alive. Barely. Lyra knelt beside him, her hands pressed against his shoulders. Her silver skin glowed faintly, her eyes filled with worry. Her cheeks were burning crimson, even brighter than before. She whispered in a trembling voice, Ryan, are you still here? He gave a weak smile. Yeah, still here. Still human, I think. Lyra let out a shaky breath of relief. Her glowing eyes softened, but her blush did not fade. In fact, it grew deeper as she realized how tightly she was holding on to him. She quickly pulled her hands back, pressing them against her own face, embarrassed. Ryan chuckled softly, even though his chest hurt. You really can't stop blushing, can you? Her face turned even redder. I cannot control it. You make it worse, she admitted in a whisper. Ryan tilted his head. Worse? Lyra glanced away, her hands trembling as she hugged the smaller pod close to her chest. No human ever touched the seeds. No human ever touched me. But you did both. And now, my face, it will never stop burning when you are near. Ryan blinked, his heart skipping a beat. For a moment, all the danger, all the chaos faded away. It was just him and her, sitting in the glow of the mother seed with words that carried more weight than she knew. Before he could answer, the sound of movement stirred in the chamber. The leader of the guards forced himself to his knees. His armor was cracked, his weapon broken, but his voice was still sharp. The mother seed chose the human. The other soldiers stirred weakly, whispering to one another in fear. They did not dare attack again. Their eyes were wide, their faces pale, as if they had seen something divine. Lyra stiffened, clutching Ryan's arm. They will not stop. Even if they fear you now, the elders will come. They will take me away. They will never allow this bond. Ryan's jaw tightened. He pushed himself up, though his body screamed in pain. He faced the soldiers, his voice steady. If anyone tries to take her, they'll have to go through me first. The leader's eyes narrowed, but he did not move. He lowered his head, muttering something Ryan couldn't understand. Then he raised his voice for all to hear. The mother seed has spoken. If it bonds with the human, then it is fate. We cannot fight fate. The soldiers slowly bowed their heads. One by one they withdrew, dragging themselves toward the tunnels. Their torches faded into the distance until only silence remained. Lyra stared in disbelief. They left us. Ryan turned to her, breathing hard. Looks like they accepted it. For now, she lowered her eyes, her blush returning. But the elders will not forgive. They will send others. Ryan stepped closer, gently lifting her chin so her glowing eyes met his. Then let them come. I'll be here always, I promised, didn't I? Lyra's breath caught. Her face turned crimson again, her heart pounding so loudly she thought he might hear it. Always, she repeated softly as if tasting the word for the first time. Ryan smiled, tired but true. Yeah, always. No matter what happens, I won't leave you. For a long moment they just stared at each other, the silence heavy but warm. Lyra's lips trembled and she whispered, You do not understand. For my kind, promises are not simple. They are sacred. If you break it, it breaks me too. Ryan's chest tightened. He reached out, placing a steady hand on hers. Then I won't break it. That's my promise to you, Lyra. Her eyes widened, her face glowing red as tears shimmered at the edges. She pressed her free hand over her burning cheeks, whispering, You are impossible and foolish, but you are mine now. Ryan blinked, stunned by her words. Then he laughed softly. Yours, huh? Guess I can live with that. Lyra's blush grew deeper than ever, but this time she did not hide. She leaned closer, her forehead resting lightly against his shoulder. Then stay with me. Until the end of stars. Ryan wrapped his arm around her gently, careful not to crush the pod she held. His voice was soft but steady. Until the end of stars. The chamber glowed around them, the mother seed pulsing gently as if blessing their bond. The danger was not over. Ryan knew the elders would come, and Lyra knew her people would never easily accept this. But in that moment, they had something stronger than fear. They had each other. And as Lyra blushed fiercely against his shoulder, Ryan whispered the words that would carry them both through whatever came next. I promise, Lyra, I'll never let you go.